the name Yuri Bezmenov comes to me quite a bit. I've watched. Are you familiar with this gentleman, Yuri Bezmenov?
No.
He was Yuri Bezmenov. He was he said he was a KGB operative. It came here to the United States in the 70s and 80s and explained very clearly how Russia was implementing a decades-long process of demoralization in the United States. Your writings in the 90s and other times about addressing and exploiting racial disharmony in the United States as a way to weaken us as a power. All these things kind of are rattling around in my mind, and I'm trying to come up with a way where we can sort of are we out of a phase of Russian demoralization, if there one that ever occurred? People in the United States today believe that we are experiencing the negative side effects of decades-long Russian disinformation, propaganda, exploitation of racial divisions, exploitation of minority divisions, even of inserting the LGBTQ, lesbian, gay agenda into the conversation, a fusion with Marxism, Black Lives Matter. You know, we think that they're communists. The LGBTQ people think they're communists. You have said actually that's an extension of capitalism. Can you just help me understand? Is the United States suffering from a decades-long disinformation, misinformation campaign? Is Russia trying to continually to exploit our internal divisions to make us weaker? Are Black Lives Matter and the Gay Flag and the Rainbow Coalition, are they communists? Are they capitalists? Is it late-stage capitalism? Can you maybe just address some of that? Because I know that that's on the mind of people who listen to me and are trying to make sense of what's going on in the United States right now, right? Because we feel disharmony in the United States. We feel tension. We feel anger. We feel conflict. We see conflict that wasn't there before. Right? Racial tension in the United States. As somebody who was born in 1976, I remember the 1990s. I remember racial tensions being low. I remember there being racism not a big deal. But now I see racism being a big deal. And I see guys coming from Russia who have said, hey, we wanted to sow racial discontent within your country. And now that racial discontent is fused with a Marxist ideology. Feminist literature and Marxist ideology and Black Lives Matter, it's all together. Even the feminists very clearly said that they wanted to destroy the family in order to open up workers to the collective, right? So help me understand that. Are we experiencing a decades-long misinformation campaign and propaganda campaign from Russia? Is the condition internally in the United States partially a result of that? If so, how do we reconcile that and where do we go from here? Your thoughts, please.
So first of all, I think that sure, there was a kind of propaganda campaign during the Cold War when there were two opposing ideological systems fighting each other. But result of Cold War with our defeat and the victory of the West, it is reality check. Who was more convincing in propaganda, in seducing the other? So we have fallen under the spells of capitalism, and you continue your way with your values. When the Soviet Union was finished, has fallen apart, nothing was made after that moment against American society. Not first 10 years when Yeltsin was in power, America was considered like Mecca for the Muslims. So that was Vatican for the Catholics. So America was the master and we were the slave. In the time of Yeltsin, maybe America was not had not the same feeling, but you have almost forgotten about Yeltsin's Russian. That was very marginal topic, and that was only maybe some people who were very keen in geopolitics. They understood that something will appear in this space, as always appeared in the heartland and Eurasia, that will represent serious headache, as Brzezinski and the other. But most of Americans didn't care about Russia during this period. When Putin came to power, there was the beginning of the awakening of Russian sovereignty. But America, for the first part of the Putin's rule, was considered as just as part of the West or the friend. Putin wanted to make the friendship with United States. Step by step, he came to the same conclusion that myself many years before Putin, that globalist elite, United States, Atlanticism is the main enemy. Globalism, Atlanticism, this Western imperialism is the main enemy for Russia, and we are obliged to oppose. So, for example, but at the same time, during Yeltsin, during Putin, and now, there is the big and huge propaganda campaign of the West, of the globalists inside of Russian society. You say that the LGBT are Marxist or not, but for example, in Russia, gay prides are prohibited, LGBT is prohibited. By constitution, we consider marriage only legitimate between men and women. We have no laws for homosexuals. So we are most Christian and conservative country, most anti-Marxist, I would say, country in the world. And I think that by purely Machiavellian, realistic reasons, we are interested in the weakening of American society, maybe, but we have no decision to play this card. That we have no real instruments, and the main instrument of Russian propaganda it is successful rule of Putin. So Putin is our main weapon, and that is much more argument not for LGBT or Black Lives Matter by American patriots. So if we have strong patriotic traditionalist ruler of Russia, why not to have Americans Putin as well? And that is the kind of our propaganda. One man is our propaganda, and I would never convince nobody if I would say that we have nothing to do with all these problems. Logically, but you will not believe me, and I don't pretend to that. But I would say the truth, in spite of all this belief, that we have no capacity to make you such harm as you do to yourself. We have no such capacity. So, do we want or we don't want? We cannot afford to destroy a society from within. You are much more successful in that yourselves. So, I think we observe this. My personal sympathy is totally on the side of conservative patriotic camp in America, because it is about values, not about how weak or strong America would be. I prefer patriotic strong America than anti-patriotic weak America. But what I really am afraid of, it is somehow strong anti-patriotic America. So that is third solution. That is worst for us. So strong patriotic, yes. Weak anti-patriotic, maybe yes. But strong anti-patriotic, that is now the case. That is, I'm speaking about the Biden. So that is why I think that is the worst situation. But I think it is really weak. I think that America could not afford the real military new new military expansion or war or in Ukraine. It is just the bluff. I don't seriously believe that America or NATO could enter in the war on Ukraine. For example, it is too far from you. It doesn't belong to your sphere of influence. If it would be Mexico, maybe the situation would be different. If we, for example, intervene in the Mexico and we will declare the Mexico the part of the greatest Russia. In your situation, I would be really bothered by that, but not about Ukraine. Ukraine is part of our empire, if you would like, or our state, our zone of our big space, and that doesn't mean that we want to occupy Ukraine. It is not so. It is just new blame on us, new caricature on old Russian imperialism. It is almost totally made as the image to demonize Putin, but it could be turning true if you behave with this completely created image of enemy. The enemy ends by repeating, accepting that. If you consider me like that as the wild aggressor, maybe, but I would use this picture, and because you, in any case, you consider me the bad guy. Maybe to behave as bad guy, it is your suggestion. That is what I put in things. I propose to you the friendship. I would like to behave like in the club, in the Western club, but you have put me out. So now it is your fault. So to say the truth, I see no Russian trace in an American situation now. I think that Russia concentrates much more on the development of the military high level weapons in order to defend ourselves. That is continuation of the competition in the military strategical level, and that is much more serious. Here the problems are much more serious, and all the social problems that you have, I fear that it's up to you to solve them, and we have nothing to do. But because I could not convince nobody, I wouldn't insist.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, you know, again, we won't agree. And if I don't challenge something, that doesn't mean I agree with it. But on this one in particular, I do think that there have been influences in the United States that have been percolating for some time now that are coming to fruition, because it has taken some time for these ideas to capture our institutions. They've captured them from the ground up, from activists and radicals in the 60s that have now become teachers that teach kids that now work in corporations. And those corporations, they move up, they become human resources heads, and then they start hiring people. And now the CEOs don't even believe in our basic rights and are completely captured, I think, by this divisive ideology that may or may not have part of its roots in Russian operations in the 80s and 90s.